In this movie, we'll begin a review of the human resource planning process, starting with an introduction of the process and then moving on to the process's inputs. As a refresher, the purpose of the process is to identify and document the project roles, responsibilities, and reporting relationships, and to create the staffing management plan. Here's a few initial notes. The mentioned roles can include both individuals or groups. These individuals can be internal to the organization or external. And a few notes on the staffing management plan. It includes how and when project team members will be acquired, the criteria for releasing them from the project, training needs, recognition and rewards, compliance, safety issues, and the impact of the staffing management plan on the company. We'll review further details on the staffing management plan when we go through the outputs of the process. We'll now shift over to the inputs of the process, of which there are three. There's the enterprise environmental factors, the organizational process assets, and the project management plan, specifically activity resource requirements. We'll begin with the first item, enterprise environmental factors. There are actually several items we'll be utilizing from within the enterprise environmental factors, which review how the organization functions. This is key for this process because the roles and responsibilities will be developed with the organization's current structure and processes in mind. Here are the items to consider that will be utilized. Organizational, and this identifies the departments that will be involved in the project and how they currently interact with each other. In order to develop realistic and workable roles and responsibilities, it's important to understand what the current working arrangements are between these departments and what is doable. Next is technical. The project team must consider the disciplines and specialties that are needed to carry out the project activities. Just saying that 3 programmers are required is not sufficient. What type of language do these programmers need to know, and at what skill level? Interpersonal is next, which looks at the formal and informal relationships that exist among specific individuals that are being considered for the roles. For these individuals being considered, what is their current job description, working relationships, cultural or language differences that will impact the job, and even existing trust levels? As you can see, there's a lot to consider, and this approach is proactive in looking at the full picture. Next on the list is logistical. These logistics refer to the distance separating team members, such as time zones, countries, and even buildings. It's so easy to have these types of logistics sneak up on you, but having someone be in the same building may be important for a particular role. Politics are also taken into consideration. This looks at the goals and agenda of potential project stakeholders. What is their current level of power and alliances? The PMBOK guide also lists constraints that should be taken into account, such as the organization structure, such as weak matrix, that is more limiting in terms of project manager authority. Collective bargaining agreements, such as contracts with unions, and economic conditions, such as reduced funding. Next for review is organizational process assets. As you might recall, organizational process assets contain archives from previous projects. Here, we will utilize templates and checklists from past similar projects, which are located within the archive lessons learned. The purpose is to reduce planning time and also to continue building on what was learned from the previous projects to avoid making similar mistakes and therefore have higher efficiency and success. Templates can be used for project org charts, position descriptions, appraisals, and conflict management. And checklists can include any checklist that is related to human resource planning, such as ground rules, rewards, compliance issues, and so on. And the final input is a project management plan. Specifically, we will be utilizing the activity resource requirements that were generated within the time knowledge area in the activity resource estimating process. As a refresher, activity resource requirements contain the basis of estimate for each resource, assumptions made, resource availability, and quantity of resources needed. In this process, the activity resource requirements are further refined. And also utilized from within the project management plan are descriptions of the project management activities, which will help in identifying the required roles and responsibilities. And that wraps up the introduction and inputs of the human resource planning process. Next, we'll move on to cover the tools and techniques of the process.